Okay, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to construct a square grid in two-point perspective. I've got my frame drawn already. Let's start off by drawing the vertical that represents the back corner of the room. I'm looking for my right angle. Can't find it. Let's use this one. Okay. So somewhere in the middle of your paper, please draw a vertical line, but you want that vertical line to be a certain length. Let's make it 5 inches. How about that? Let's measure this out. Almost got it right. So 5 inches exactly. Okay, so since this vertical line represents the wall, and if I'm 5'10", standing about here, place your horizon line somewhere in the middle of your vertical. Make sure you run your horizon line all the way across your paper so that your drawing doesn't suffer from distortion. Place your vanishing points on each side. So on this side, VPR. On this side, VPL. Now, there are many different ways of doing this. I'm going to show you the easier method that is a little bit inaccurate. There's a little bit of guesswork. There are methods that are more accurate, but considerably more complex. That require more steps, require a little bit more precision. So I'm going to show you the absolutely easiest way of doing this. It's very, very effective. There's really only one place where you have to eyeball it a little bit. Otherwise, it's a pretty decent method. So let's draw our walls. They look like this. You guys are working on a larger piece of paper, so you're going to see a little bit more of your walls, your ceiling. My paper is a little bit smaller than yours. Okay, we've got the room. Here is the method I'm going to use. You're going to measure out even increments along the top wall. Okay, so I've got 5 inches. Let's measure out half-inch increments. Let's make our grid a little bit finer. All right, so we should have 10 even increments. Now you're going to extend increments all the way along both of your walls. Let me use a different color here. Be accurate. Try to be spot on with your increments. Try to be spot on with your measurements. And guys, try to follow along with your drawing. That's really, really important. It's not enough just to take notes. It's important to draw along with your instructor. This is the only way that you can internalize this information. Okay, now let's go the other direction. Okay, so we've got our even increments constructed. Here is the only place where you have to do a little bit of eyeballing, a little bit of guesswork. Look at this wall and think about where you see a square. So what we're looking for is a square piece of this wall. You can see this shape right now is too rectangular. Let's keep going, let's keep going, let's keep going until we think that we're looking at the side of a square. I'm going to say that that looks about right. Again, this is the only place where you're eyeballing. Let's draw a vertical line so that we have a square right here. Now, let's divide this entire section into little squares by running a diagonal. So if we run a diagonal across this square, at every intersection we're going to find a point going this way, like that. And at each point we're going to run a vertical line. Each vertical separation should be something that looks like a square tile. If your initial estimate is off slightly, then your tiles will no longer look square. Then you'll know you'll have a mistake. But so far, this looks pretty decent. Just making sure that my lines are actually vertical. That'd be pretty important. And that they're running directly through the intersections. Guys, you have to be precise here. The other more complicated methods, though, however, call for an even greater degree of precision. One more separation, and then we'll have our square tiles. Okay, so we've got square tiles on this wall. We can do exactly the same thing on this wall, except now that we have the tiles here, there's an easier way of doing this. So let's extend lines from each one of the increments here, going this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, here, here, going out. Let's continue using our red. I think I might be running out of ink in this pen. Let's see. No, we're okay. Okay. Okay, so we've got divisions on the floor now. So I've got one or two things I can do. So first of all, I can measure out the square here, carry it over to this side, draw a diagonal. Perfectly viable, perfectly viable. But now that we have a few things drawn, there are a number of different ways to arrive at the same piece of information. Here's another way of getting a grid. 1-point perspective and 2-point perspective can actually coexist. Let's put it that way. So even though I'm doing a 2-point perspective drawing, I can use 1-point perspective to arrive at certain information. So here's another way of arriving at a square grid. If I put a vanishing point right here, VPC, vanishing point center, And then I draw a vertical line from that vanishing point. Like this. Do you guys see the intersections here? Here, 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 here. Like this. Now I can run lines from each one of those intersections, and that's going to give me a square grid on the floor. I could have done it the other way. Once again, I could have taken this distance, carried it over, ran a diagonal, just to show you that there is a number of different ways of getting a square grid. More than one. Which way is better? It depends. It depends. So for instance, if all I needed was a square grid here and a square grid here, then going through the process of building squares here would have just been an additional step, an additional opportunity to make mistakes, possibly. This method skips that step. There we go. Okay, so now we've got square tiles on the floor. Now I can extend them up if I want. Look, really depends how much of the grid I need. Do I need all of it? Do I need some of it? Let's draw all of it for right now. So this is a very good method. It is, once again, the easier method. But it gives you pretty accurate results because it's based on one piece of fudgery, one step where I'm creating a little bit of an estimate. Here, when I initially found the square, I eyeballed it. Everything else, however, once I've got past that one little eyeballed method, should be pretty accurate. Now, once again, eyeball carefully here, because if that wall is not perfectly square, if the initial square you start off is not perfectly square, then all your tiles are going to be ultimately proportional to the first square you drew. So if this was a rectangle, it's a little bit long, every single tile will end up long in your drawing. All right, so once again, these grids are very useful for measuring both height and width. So now, if I want to place a door, that is, let's say, how many tiles here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 tiles up and 3 tiles across. Like this. Then I can do the same thing over here. So I can place a door that is 3 tiles across and 8 tiles up. So this might seem complicated, but again, this is the easy method of constructing a square grid in 2-point perspective.